In this lesson, you will learn how to multiply polynomials. Before we do that, let's talk about some terminology. A polynomial with just one term is called a monomial. So, for example, -5, x times y, although it's two things multiplied together, it's still just one term. 4x to the third, -2, m to the third, n to the fifth. All of these are monomials because they are just one term. A polynomial with two terms is a binomial. Think about a bicycle has two wheels, so a binomial has two terms. A plus or a minus sign will separate each term. So like here we have 4x, that's a term, minus 3, and that's a term. So because they are separated with that minus sign, or in this case with the plus sign, we know it's a binomial because they have two terms. 2m plus 5n squared, again, those are separated by a plus, or even in this example, a minus sign. So those are binomial with two terms. And then we have trinomials. Trinomials, like a tricycle, has three terms. So we have our examples. Once again, each term is separated by a plus or minus sign. So if you have two signs, whether they're plus or minus signs or a mixture of both, if you have two signs, you're going to have three terms, which in the same case with the binomial, if you only have one sign, whether it's plus or minus sign, you're going to end up having two terms. With binomials, or with monomials, binomials, and trinomials, when we talk about polynomials, anything above three terms, so if it has four or more terms, you just call it polynomial. It does not have a specific name, but all of these are also called polynomials, but they have specific names based on how many terms they have. So let's look at our first example. Here we have x plus 5. We're going to multiply with x plus 2. This is a binomial times a binomial. You have done the distributive property. Before. So we're going to do that again with multiplying these binomials. But we need to separate it out so we can distribute the first term to the parentheses x plus 2. So let's write x times x plus 2. And then we're also going to do the second term again to that x plus 2. So rewriting our problem so we can set it up to distribute. So the x we're going to multiply with the x plus 2 and the 5 to the x plus 2. And we've rewritten it so we can do that. So then just distribute. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. 5 times x is 5x. And then 5 times 2 is 10. Once you distribute using the distributive property, we now will just simplify by combining our like terms. Those will generally appear in the center, not always, but if you use this method, most often they will appear in the center. Combining those like terms, we get x squared. 2x plus 5x gives us 7x, and then of course bring down our plus 10. When you combine like terms, your answer is that like term. 2x plus 5x will not result in any sort of x squared. That will only happen when you're multiplying x times x. That's when you add the exponents to make it x squared. Let's look at another example. Number 2. Here we have 2x plus 4, and we're going to multiply that with x plus 3. So again, let's rewrite it so we can distribute the 2x to the parentheses x plus 3 as well as the 4 distributing to the x plus 3. So first for the 2x, we're going to distribute to the second parentheses, so x plus 3. And then we have the positive 4, again distributing to the x plus 3. So we're distributing the 2x to that second parentheses as well as the 4 to that second parentheses. So let's do that. 2x times x gives us 2x squared. 2x times 3 gives us 6x. 4 times x is 4x. And finally, 4 times 3 gives us 12. Notice how many terms come from that multiplication because we're distributing that first term of the first parentheses to both of the second terms in the second parentheses. And then we're distributing that second term, again, to both of the terms in the second parentheses. So it is going to result in 4 terms in this type of problem. Once again, let's combine our like terms. So we have 6x plus 4x. That will combine to give us 10x. Of course, bringing down the 2x squared and the 12 as part of your answer. Number 3, we have x plus 1. We're going to multiply that with x minus 2. This problem is really no different than what we've previously done, but be careful of your negative signs. Feel free to pause the video and watch and come back and watch after you've attempted this on your own. Let's look how we will set it up. We have x times x minus 2. Again, taking that first term and distributing it to the second parentheses. Then we have positive 1. We're going to distribute with the x minus 2. So that second term, again, rewriting it to the second parentheses. Now you just multiply, distribute each term. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. 1 times x is 1x, or you can just write x. And then 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Once again, combine your like terms. You have to have the same variable with the same exponent in order to be like terms. Again, be careful with your signs. As I mentioned at the beginning, the only thing different is your positive and negative. So as you're dealing with those negative terms, be careful when you combine them. So we have x squared, and negative 2 plus 1 gives us negative 1, or just x. And then, of course, bring down your minus 2. It's not necessary to show the 1 in front of the variable. A coefficient of 1 can be understood and just written as a minus x there. And number 4. This one we have 3x squared minus 2x. We're going to multiply that with x plus 5. This one does have positive and negative signs, but it also has an x squared term to begin with. However, how you set it up and distribute will be no different. So let's set that up. We have 3x squared. We're going to multiply with the x plus 5 parentheses. And then the negative 2x. We're going to, again, distribute with the x plus 5 parentheses. So rewrite it so your first term gets multiplied with your second parentheses, and then your next term gets multiplied with your parentheses. And then do that multiplication. 3x squared times x. Well, you can think about this as 3 times, there's a 1 there, so that part is 3. X squared times x, we add the exponent. So there's 2 here and just 1. So 2 and 1 makes 3. You multiply the coefficients, 3 times 1, and you add the exponents, 2 plus 1. Let's continue to distribute. 3 times 5 is 15. This time we don't have any variables to combine, so of course we just need to bring our x squared with that term. Going to the next part, we have negative 2x times x. So negative times positive is negative. 2 times there's a coefficient of 1, so 2 times 1 is 2. And x times x is x squared. You can think about adding those exponents. Gives us 2. So negative times positive is a negative. 2 times 1, and then x times x. And then we have negative 2x times 5, which gives us negative 10x. Again, look for your like terms. There's no other x cubed terms, so we'll bring it down in our answer. We have 15x squared, and we're subtracting 2x squared from that. That's going to give us a positive 13x squared. As always, when you combine like terms, your answer is that like term. So we combined x squared terms, we should still have an x squared term. And then finally, bring down your minus 10x. Be sure to watch the next video and see how to multiply binomials with trinomials.